Let's see 10 spooky standalones perfect to read this autumn. I read more than 60 fantasy standalones, and these 10 spooky ones are perfect to read this autumn. Let's start with a story that lots of you know by now, and that is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This is, in theory, a middle grade story. It is very, very short, and it is perfect to read while surrounded by candles. And especially if you want to be hunted, it has all the good things that Neil Gaiman has, which are this magical realism topic with very dark elements and this blurred line between what's imagination and what's reality and nightmares coming to life. We will follow Coraline as she is finding a new family that it's very wicked and it's very bad. And it shook me to my core. Till date, I still think it's one of Gaiman's more horrifying, terrifying stories. Continuing with that middle grade haunted house vibe, we have Gallant by B. Schwab. This author for me has something unique because she's able to write things that in theory you've known before as haunted house, but it just always has this very unique spin, this depth of emotion, of sadness, of loneliness, of that gloomy setting that only B. Schwab is able to share. And you see and read things that are incredibly terrifying and that are wrong, and at the same time they seem beautiful. In here we will follow this girl, and she is mute. She has the unique ability to being able to see ghosts, and one day she will receive this letter to go to her family house, Gallant. Upon arriving, she will discover that this house is what made her mom go mad, and she will discover that this house leads to another house which is not quite Gallant, and it has all these gothic vibes. In this book you have beautiful illustrations, and you see the depth of this character, how deep she feels, and you will be thrown in this story that has all the best things to read during this fall season. And let's go now to a standalone that I was not able to forget in such a long time, and that is To Wicked Deep. If you like witches and you like ghosts and you like terrifying villages where a mystery it's about to happen and you don't know what is happening, you just know that there's this gloomy setting and that you need to follow through in order to understand, then this is definitely the book for you. It follows the story of this village where a long time ago they drowned 3 witches, and from that moment onwards every season they come up as ghosts and they take 3 boys and they drown them in the lake. A new season is starting, the witches, these ghosts are emerging, and you don't know which boys are gonna be taken. You just will follow this girl that really wants to avoid a boy that she is starting to like to get picked. I was not able to see the twist that this book had, but again, this gloomy, foresty, very rainy setting made it all the good for me, and I was very consumed by this one. It reads very fast and it's fairly short, and really recommend. And before we get to properly horror stories, let's keep with something that really leans more towards the cozy horror spooky in this sense, and that is Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross. This story has a fascinating premise, and although it's young adult, and you can tell by the end of the book that it was wrapped up fairly quickly, and it's not a perfect book, it just made it so much for me. I thought the dialogues were phenomenal. The ambience was very beautiful, and it was this perfect blend of something slightly spooky while beautiful and whimsy. We follow the premise that in this land there was a curse that was unraveled, and from that point, whenever someone has a nightmare, these wizards need to take care and write down what happened, because every new moon one of these nightmares that was dreamt come to life, and they need to prepare. So there's this very unique idea of nightmares need to be recorded, and they need to think how they will fight these nightmares, and you never know what happens. You go through different nightmares, and that point was so good. Then you get to see a little bit of romance, and you have also this haunted mansion, this nightmare that needs to be defeated, and it's such a good read to read if you want something while it's rainy and you want something cozy but a little bit spooky. Now, going more towards the gothic side of things, we have House of Salt and Sorrow. This is a very action-packed, character-driven standalone that made it all for me. It is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, but what you have here is the story of this girl that she basically sees ghosts, and she is seeing the ghost of her sister that are dead. You follow this family in a manor by the sea, always raining, always this long corridors at night, things that happen, ghosts happening, terrifying moments, and there are some scenes that I am not able to forget. Honestly, a little bit more creepy than I thought they would be, that it still leans towards the very acceptable. You don't necessarily are gonna be creeped out or horrified by what you read, and it is a mystery at its core, but it's done in a way that it has all the vibes. The most incredible thing is this surrounding idea of this manor, and you will be drowned with this story, I promise you that. Another haunted gothic story, it's a Starling House, which is a new release of this year, and I am fascinated by this. The setting, it's very dark, it's very gloomy, and it has all the great things about a haunted house that has a mystery. It is a story within a story. It follows different points of view, and it is really gothic. It has a slightly contemporary setting, so it's nowadays our main character then is obsessed with this house, that something wicked happened, and the story unfolds from there. It has so many good things, and it's a story that screams read me while surrounded by candles and being intense, and just it has been hyped by so many people so far, although again it's a new release, and I can confirm the hype. I really enjoy this story. It is wicked in the best sense, and it screams autumn, dark afternoons. And let's go now to properly horror books, starting with Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is very good. It's not the best book that he has written for me. We will see the best one in this list after, so you need to stick around for that. But the premise, it's something very realistic, or at least something that lived in my imagination, which is that one day the workers of this IKEA-like store comes back to work and they start to see that things are destroyed. The only reasonable thing by the managers is to have some of these workers, and let them spend the night there. And there are so many terrifying scenes, like the mirrors, the house, the mannequins. It has something that it's like you've seen it, and I cannot go now to an IKEA and not think that it's gonna be haunted. It really plays a very important role with the psychological horror. What is happening? Is it real? Are you imagining? And it has that intense feeling until I guess 70% of the book, where you start to see how the things unfold. The things do so in a way that it's very fast, and it is a read that it's very fast. The narration, it's very good, and if you enjoy this kind of premise, you will be mesmerized by this. From a favorite author, a story that I think it's very underrated, we have Fever Dream by George R.R. Martin. Here we will talk about vampires, and they are in Mississippi, and it is fascinating. It's very character driven. The story, it's not super action packed. It is slow, but it is done in a way that just surrounded me. You will read this, and it has all of these old ships through the Mississippi. One of them has a vampire, and you will be able to know them. There's these different factions fighting. It is all very intense. It is savage at the same time, and the narration, it is very on point. The prose is smart, and it has this classic R.R. Martin mark. I loved it from beginning to end, and it's not super horrifying, but it definitely had this paranormal vampire element, and it has all the vibes. Another favorite author is T. Kingfisher, and in this case I want to recommend A House with Good Bones. It is a standalone that it's fairly short, and I was surprised by how much I actually really enjoyed it. It also has this theme of a haunted house, but the great twist is that this house is your childhood house. So our main character will go back, she will get to see her mom who has not been answering back, and she will see that things have changed so much. They are now everything as her grandma left them, and things will start to happen. The house will start creaking and doing very weird sounds, and you will see what unravels. It has this unique Kingfisher tone where there's humor, but there are also very dark themes, and it also has these very horror style moments that I absolutely loved, and I think they are perfect if you want something that can be read very easily. It moves really fast, or I felt that while really being very focused on our main character. It was very good. And to conclude this list, then a favorite, the Southern's Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires. This also had this amazing blend between horror and humor and vampires. It needs a paranormal mystery that needs to be unraveled, and you will be following different middle-aged women doing so. It has one of the most creepy, horrifying scenes that I read in such a long time. I am more terrified than ever from certain stuff that I won't be spoiling, and it reads very quickly. I was consumed by this. I read it in a day. The premise is that we have these women that they love thrillers. They have the book club about thrillers, and one day someone very weird just moves to the neighborhood, and children start to disappear, and they took it to themselves to find what is happening. There are also themes about sexism here, and I thought that was also very interesting. But trust me, if you want something that reads fast, that it has very charismatic but low-key, very approachable and relatable characters, go with this one. The horror scenes are perfect, and you won't regret it if you want some vampires that are not so good ones. And now let me know down below if you have any spooky horror standalone that you would like to recommend us. I would love to hear them. And thank you so much to my Patreons who joined the Ingwardin Society and are helping me and others to keep the book spirits alive by reading. See you soon. Bye.